Well, John, thank you. The Intelligent Community Forum, which began in 1999, has developed over time to be one of the, I think, important kind of advocacy groups in the world for what broadband and the kind of importance of connectivity. Let me just first say thank you for inviting me, somebody south of the border, to come to the I-Canada Summit. Want to thank Bill Hutchison and Barry Gander and Brad Woodside for their kindness and generosity last night for dinner. Let me just start off with one premise that I think is a premise that's widely shared, is that when you look at the future of cities in the 21st century, you're really looking at a hyper-connected future. That's what future means for cities in regions across the world. I just want to pick up briefly a kind of context of my thanks to Canada as what you do as mayor is you look for best practices. And Brad identified three that I found in Canada. I went to Vancouver and saw Granville Island, took it back to Riverside. It became Riverside Marketplace. Went to another conference, Vancouver, the World Urban Forum, which the Canadian exhibit on sustainability was powerful and persuasive. But I heard a mayor of Honolulu talk, when you come forth with a green action plan, you need to have a community parade before that. We did that in Riverside. We're very proud of the fact that we're one of the greenest cities of our size in the United States. And we started that with the idea of a community parade that came out of a conference in Vancouver. And I still remember going to Edmonton and listening to a discussion at 311, which is a system that's been adopted by many cities. We get about 200,000 calls a year now in our 311 system. It works, but I really learned that attending an FMC meeting in Edmonton, and courage Brad as he moves up the chairs, that we used to have a much closer relationship in the National League of Cities and FMC, and I think that relationship should be revived and encouraged. I did want to emphasize that we often talk about connectivity, but we need, I think, also to recognize the importance of cities. Probably the single person who's been most influential in the United States has been Richard Florida. He's one academic people talk about as well as read. He was at Carnegie Mellon. He's now moved to University of Toronto. But he's returned to a book which was called The Rise of the Creative Class. He's largely rewritten it, and he calls it Revisited. But I just wanted to read one paragraph from his book, which I think underscores in many ways what we're doing here. It has often been said that in this age of globalization and modern communication technology, geography is dead. The world is flat, the place no longer matters. Nothing could be further from the truth. Place has become the central organizing unit of our time, taking on many of the functions that used to be played by firms and other organizations. Access to talented and creative people is to modern business what access to coal and iron ore was to steelmaking. It determines where companies will choose to locate and grow, and this in turn changes the way cities must compete. Final point. In this environment, it is geographic place rather than corporation that provides the organizational matrix for matching people and jobs. Longtime mayor of the city of Riverside. Where is Riverside? What is Riverside? We are a city in Southern California, some 19 million people in Southern California. A writer named Dan Walters referred to Southern California as the most complex and diverse social, economic, and political society in the history of mankind. I think that's a defendable premise. That's where Riverside is located. We're halfway between downtown LA and the city of Palm Springs. We're a city of some 300,000 people. Our most important asset is that we are a university community. We have some 65,000 students, 3 universities, and a community college. To be successful in this this business of being an intelligent community, the word there is tribe, but it really is the word leaders. You need somebody who's folk who are not ordinary in this process, and particularly our IT guy, we referred to him as the best in the country. Steve Renneker was central to many of our ideas and progress. Where we started on this in Riverside was before Steve Renneker, and it really was the idea of the railroad. Is that the railroad, we had a retired executive vice chancellor from University of California, Riverside, said that the future is of fiber and networking is the same as railroads. If you're not if it does go through your town, you're not going to make it, which is really the beginning of our idea we had of the smart Riverside. If I have any emphasis that I'm particularly proud of is bringing people to the table, getting the best you can find, sit down table, they stay at the table, good things happen. I would emphasize one example of good things happen is the next slide, which you call Smart Riverside, which try to get the best and brightest to come together. It's not sufficient to do this, but I think you can't really make at least important progress in your city without getting people together, the best you can identify with ideas. We call it Smart Riverside. One of the things that we've done next is ask why Riverside, why selected as intelligent community. As someone was identified earlier by Brad Woodside, is we have free Wi-Fi across most of the city. Kind of a complicated story of how we got there with AT&T. We now actually putting some city money behind us, but about 80% of the city has access to free Wi-Fi, and we're proud of that. When we talk about Riverside, that is one of the characteristics we emphasize. Many applications have come out of our efforts of being a high-tech place, and in many ways we've entered the world of apps, and it's what the new world looks like. Here are some examples from the city of Riverside. If you go to the next slide, this is it's talking about some of our applications. Examples follow this very quickly. The first one is we call in-car video. This is really what we're using for the police department, and it's been very helpful. The next one is video security, and we've tried to do it with traffic management and graffiti and parks, and we have a great deal of cameras around our city. We do it with traffic management. The next slide, we have cameras at 354 intersections and a traffic management center, which we're monitoring and managing traffic in Riverside. One of the key things, one of our best practices, and I would argue that I think it's the best in the United States in this area of digital inclusion. As you recognize, having computer and access to the internet is in many ways the great equalizer. We have a number of, we have 90,000 households in Riverside, about 30,000 households have less than $40,000 in income. Question is, how do you provide computers and access? We've created this process we call a digital inclusion process. We have distributed approximately 6,000 computers with 8 hours of training. We figured out how to pay for it by collecting the e-waste. The people who rehabilitate the computers come out of a Project Bridge, a kind of gang program that gives them purpose and identity. We're very proud of our digital inclusion process of giving people an opportunity who would otherwise not, to have both a computer plus training in how it can be used. We've done some research on what difference this has made in terms of kids and their education. You can see the next slide sort of talking about the digital inclusion initiative and some of the things that characterize this initiative. The next one, if you go to the next slide, is a brief map showing where computers have been located through our digital inclusion process through our city. No question that the word that everybody's using when they talk about cities and future is innovation. I remember once listening to Joel Garou, who wrote a book in the States called Edge Cities. He was asked what makes in the future, why is some cities going to be more successful than the others? He said, go invent your future. Well, inventing your future is another synonym really for innovation. I mean, a number of cities now are creating innovation officers. We refer to Steve Renneker no longer as the Chief Information Officer, but Chief Innovation Officer. In the city of San Francisco, the mayor has appointed a Chief Innovation Office of Civic Innovation. This is an example that we're trying to take the research from particularly University of California, Riverside, into the marketplace and try to have people connected with investors, and it's been a very successful initiative. We call it the Innovation Economy Initiative. Next one is an example of a research center which is connecting what UCR does with environmental issues. It's called CSERT. It's really a splendid. Sometimes much of the work of the campus stays on the campus. This is one success story of connecting the work on the campus with the environmental issues outside. We have the next one is an example of this kind of world we live in. We've had a major Chinese investor who's contributed money to what we kind of call a global energy initiative at the University of California at Riverside campus. But we've also connected we have some 8 sister cities. One of those is in Sendai, Japan. They have a university called Tohoku University. They have their faculty exchanges with the UCR, particularly with CSERT, and with this effort we call SC Rise, Southern California Research in Solar Energy. An example how research is not simply on one campus, but really worldwide. We recognize that we live in this global marketplace where you can buy anything you want at any time, and to be successful, you got to be best at least comparably best in the world. If you get the next slide, is we're trying to work on being an effective exporter. If you go to the next slide, there's a comment on innovation and the important role that universities have. As you look, at least what economists seem to say and what the research seems to say, is that the universities are at the center of much of what we call innovation, and particularly how to translate the work that occurs on campuses into the marketplace and to the public arena. This is, if we go to the next one, next slide. This is really an effort to make that point. Go to the next slide. It's a point that the ICF emphasizes is the knowledge workforce. These are really the 3 universities in our community college. Particularly for economic development, community colleges are playing an increasingly important role because they are more nimble sometimes than the 4 universities in developing programs that connect with the workforce and the workplace. We're very proud of what's happening. If you go to the next slide, in our school system, we have the first really all-electric high school. No more books to carry around in backpacks. We have a digital dashboard for parents so they can monitor how their kids doing in the classroom. what's my kid up to? You don't have to ask that question in the abstract or wait to a parent-teacher conference. You can now follow it on what we call the digital dashboard. I've been to one of the elementary schools which have these Apple iPad touches, and I can't tell you the excitement they have is sort of working on different, these were math, so I'm working on, but there's a whole set of programming that excites kids and begins to connect them with both math achievement and achievements in reading. You need to have a way of, next slide, of sort of telling the story. This is just an example of ways that Riverside advocates for itself and tries to tell its story. I think the lesson of this is there's not one way, there's multiple ways, and you need to stay with them all. I was impressed this morning, the importance that social media has and creating a more open and accessible local governance process. Accessibility is the most important characteristic, political characteristic of cities, and access now is more than simply showing up at a city council meeting. There's any number of ways the public will now have access to what the city is about to. Go to the next slide. Just further examples of advocacy, and the final slide is there is one thing that John Jung did not mention. There's going to be a book that's being published, I guess, coming out today. Is that when it's coming out? Tonight on intelligent communities, particularly looking at the 7 from last year, and so you can read in more detail and what's in the ICF book that's coming out. But I thought, by way of closure, Bill Hutchison asked, "What really is the secret sauce? Why does a city in Southern California, we're 300,000, I mean, 19 million. We're not on the coast. We don't have extraordinary high income levels in the city. There's no big corporation there. Why Riverside selected in 2012? And if I had to give summary reasons, I would do this by way of closing. I think the first is the free Wi-Fi across our city. Very few cities in the United States have figured out how to do this. There were different reasons for that. Minneapolis is one that's been modestly successful, but we have done this. Second is our digital inclusion program, with some 6,000 families receiving computers. I don't know of a comparable program in the States. The third is our sort of emphasis on commercialization, and which we've called the Innovation Economy Corporation. We fund that from the city. We give particular emphasis. We give staff assistance. The fourth is one that many of you have, that is, you have university research. But University of California we regard as the best public research university in the world. There are 10 campuses, one of which is in Riverside. And I showed you 2 examples. CSERT and the Winston Chung initiatives help distinguish this campus. The fifth is really the digital high school now, and having ability to monitor your child's success in school are things that distinguish what's happening in our K-12 education. Beyond the digital high school and the digital dashboard, we do have websites we're particularly proud of. We've won almost in the top 10, almost every time there's competition on websites. You can go see Explore Riverside and see what you find. And finally, we have something we call Seizing Our Destiny. It's a collaborative public-private nonprofit economic strategic plan. It's built and premised around the quality of life. It is, so we figured out how to fund it, how to bring people involved with it. It really is our game plan for the future, a game plan of being a intelligent community. And my time is up, and I thank you for your attention.